Good morning. Good morning and welcome to First Universalist Church of Yarmouth. My name is Sarah Whitty. I am the president of the Board of Trustees here at First Universalist. I'm so happy to be greeting you today. At First Universalist, our mission is to explore our faith, embrace this community, and to engage the world as spiritual seekers. May we take those words to heart. Before we begin our service, I have two announcements. Number one, today, following our worship service from noon to 1 p.m., all are welcome to come by right here at First Universalist and celebrate Valentine's Day, or get ready, I guess, with a congregational love-in. During this time, we'll have postcard packets, including addresses and stamps for you to pick up to participate in First U's second annual Valentine's Day postcard exchange, as well as a chance to decorate our sanctuary with statements of love and share fellowship and sweet treats with First U friends. Reverend Hillary and Gwen hope to see you today on our grounds at noon. Number two, our annual campaign, I always say that, our annual campaign is underway to fund our next church year. We invite you to explore your touchstones to First Universalist, view the short video on uuyarmouth.org, you'll find it right on the first page, homepage, and consider offering your financial commitment, an intention of giving to our next year, which begins on July 1st. We are entirely self-funded, plus we give away all we make in fundraisers to our social justice partners. Thank you for your generous and spirited commitment. Those are our announcements this morning. I now invite you to take a deep breath with me as we settle into this time together. Our music director, Sam Chandler, will lead us into worship.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Sarah. And good morning, everyone. How are you? It's good to be with you on this bright and blue-skied February morning. My name is Reverend Hillary Collins-Gilpatrick. I'm the minister of First Universalist Church in Yarmouth, Maine, and it is with joy that I say, whoever you are, wherever you are from, whomever you love, whatever it is you have done, you are welcome here in our spirited circle of care, faith, and wonder this morning. Friends, this Sunday is the first in our month of widening the circle. The theme, Widening the Circle, is inspired by a report published by the UUA Commission on Institutional Change in last June 2020, entitled Widening the Circle of Concern. And the report is the culmination of multiple years of research, interviews, case studies, and cultural analysis that explored the widespread impacts of systemic and structural racism in our churches and association. Along with documenting these impacts, the report, which at about 220 pages is quite comprehensive, also offers recommendations on the ways we can advance long-term cultural and institutional change in our denomination and, as the Commission says, redeem the promises and ideals of our faith. I'm up for it, if you are. You can find the Widening the Circle of Concern report in its entirety on the UUA website, or you can order your own copy if you want, I think for a small fee. So as I read this report and thought about this concept of widening the circle these past weeks, I reflected on the reasons why we resist widening our circles. And surely there are many socially conditioned, personal, and instinctual reasons that inform our resistance. But I think one of the big ones is our fear. Our fear that if we stretch our circle and enable a greater, more complex diversity of people to come in, the center of our circle won't hold. We will stretch it too much, too wide, and it will fall apart and break, causing our circles, the places we know, the places where we feel empowered, comfortable, and a true sense that we belong, to disappear. As Yeats wrote in his very creepy poem, The Second Coming, things fall apart, the center cannot hold, and mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. But what if, despite our stretching, widening, and expanding of our circle, the center did hold, does hold? In fact, what if because of our stretching, widening, and expanding, our circle center actually grows stronger? Friends, this is the prospect I'd like to explore with you today in our service. As we embark on this journey towards widening the circle of our concern, Sarah found an excellent poem this week that I think will get us warmed up and stretching. Thanks for sharing it as our opening words, Sarah.
Thanks, Hillary. Thanks, Hillary. Our words are from a poem by Ursula K. Le Guin. Le Guin's work was mostly futuristic fiction, interesting in itself, with strong currents of cultural anthropology, Taoism, feminism, and the work of Carl Jung. This piece rang a few bells for me in the spirit of, say, come, come, whoever you are. It's the very heart of Unitarian Universalism, where we know that everyone has worth and something beautiful to offer their community. So this is Initiation Song from the Finder's Lodge by Ursula K. Le Guin. Please bring strange things. Please come bringing new things. Let very old things come into your hands. Let what you do not know come into your eyes. Let desert sand harden your feet. Let the arch of your feet be the mountains. Let the paths of your fingertips be your maps, and the ways you go be the lines on your palms. Let there be deep snow in your in-breathing, and your out-breath be the shining of ice. May your mouth contain the shapes of strange words. May you smell food cooking you have not eaten. May the spring of a foreign river be your navel. May your soul be at home where there are no houses. Walk carefully, well-loved one. Walk mindfully, well-loved one. Walk fearlessly, well-loved one. Return with us. Return to us. Be always coming home. I now invite everyone to lift your voice and spirit with me and join in the words of our Unison Affirmation, which are printed in your order of worship, but you probably know them. We are united in seeking to increase love with justice and to constitute a free church open to all people. Mindful of our past and drawing upon modern knowledge, we respond to the spiritual needs of persons and are devoted to the common good in community, nation, and world. We cherish the integrity of each individual and search for truth with reason as our guide. We respect differences of opinion and strive to be a democratic community. We are concerned with this world and open to the future.
And now, won't you join me as I light our chalice, a symbol of Unitarian Universalist faith around the world, and say with me our chalice lighting words. We light our chalice. We light our chalice in peace and friendship. And now, Sam is going to play us a hymn to the gift to be simple.
Tis a gift to be simple, tis a gift to be free, tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning we come round right. Tis a gift to be simple, tis a gift to be free, tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, we'll be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning we come round right.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Gwen.
Good morning. Hey, what do you have there, Mac? What is that?
Oh, it's a circle. Well, actually, it's lots of circles.
Okay, lots of circles, but why do you have all those drawings of circles?
Well, because I wanted to make a drawing of community.
How are the circles a drawing of community?
Okay, let me show you.
Cool, okay.
So this first circle, this little yellow circle, is me. That's myself. It represents my thoughts and my feelings and my body and just all of me. And then this second circle, this little green circle, is my family and the people who I am closest with, like my very close friends.
Okay, so I think I get it. So then the next circle, the third circle, is your neighborhood, your community and school, your friends and acquaintances.
Yeah, you're right. And this next circle, the fourth circle, represents my town or my city, or even a bigger community, like maybe even my state or my country. And then the last circle is all of the people in the whole world, including like our natural world, our environment, animals, oceans, all plants.
Wow, so that's a really cool drawing, but why did you make it?
Well, it's one way to see how that we're all interconnected. I mean, if you look at these circles, you can see how me, circle number one, right in the center, is part of all the other circles.
Oh, I see. So we're all interconnected, and maybe that means the things I do, if I'm in the middle of that circle, impact people in all the other circles. Sort of like when you drop a pebble into water and you see small circles from where the pebble was dropped, and then there are more and more and more circles. My dropped pebble doesn't impact just that one spot, just me. It impacts all the other circles as it ripples outwards.
Yeah, you're totally right. And some people even have a saying for this. They say, think globally, but act locally.
Okay, I'm not quite sure I know what that means though.
It means that whatever you do, you keep all of these circles in mind, all of the community.
Okay, so maybe one example of that is to think about the whole planet, our world, the biggest circle, all
Mhm.
of the people on it, and the plants and animals. So you're thinking about all of it, and then you do something small at your own home or in your own community. Like you could plant a garden for pollinators, like bees and bugs and birds.
That is a great example. It's a small local thing that you're doing, like planting that garden, but because everything is interconnected, it affects the entire ecosystem.
So that's an example of our interconnection with the planet, but is the same true for people?
Yeah, definitely. One way we can think globally and act locally is to befriend people who are different from us. We can widen our circle of who our friends and acquaintances are and who is in our community. When we make our circle bigger and include more people, especially people who are different from us, maybe have a different skin color or different backgrounds or different types of family, we're strengthening and expanding our community.
I love that. I hadn't thought that we could strengthen or widen our circles too.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Our circles of community are really awesome. And speaking of community, let's all say our children's blessing together.
Oh, good
Ready?
idea. We
We
are.
are Unitarian Universalists, people of open minds, loving hearts, and helping hands.
Thank you so much, Gwen and Mac, for telling us about our awesome circles of community. Now, honoring this circle of our gathered community this morning, we come to the time in our service that we set aside for quiet prayer and meditation. This is a time to reflect on the events of the past week, Look forward to what might come in the days ahead. Offer a prayer of loving kindness to someone in need of loving kindness, or simply be here now, in this moment, and all that it offers us in sensation and emotion. Following our time of quiet meditation, I will open our time of sharing, and all will be welcome to speak or write a joy, sorrow, or concern that you hold today. For all that has been said, for all we hold inside, for all we simply do not have the words to explain, we hear you, we hold you, and we pray for your immediate comfort, continued joy, a path forward, and the seeds of peace right now. Let it be so, and amen. Sarah will now introduce our offering.
In honor of our seventh principle, respect for the interdependent web of all existence, our half-plate recipient this week is Maine Rivers. Based here in Yarmouth, Maine Rivers works to protect and restore the ecological health of Maine's river systems by actively supporting local river restoration efforts in watersheds such as the Royal River. Alewives can't vote, eels don't call their legislators, and salmon don't know how to fill out the permits required for dam removal. Maine Rivers advocates and educates on behalf of our rivers and the creatures that depend on them. Your support is greatly appreciated. You are invited to make your offering using the donate button in the order of worship. By clicking on this link, you will be taken to the Give Butter virtual giving site that accepts your card number, PayPal, or Venmo account. You may also give your offering by dropping a check in the mail or using your bank's free bill pay feature. This morning's offering has now been requested and will be gratefully received. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Our reading this morning is by the self-described Black lesbian mother, warrior, poet, Audre Lorde. A writer and theorist, Lorde's words will forever be viewed as canon in the works of those who have effectively addressed and confronted racism, misogyny, classism, and homophobia in American society. The excerpt I offer today as our reading is from Audre Lorde's essay entitled Difference and Survival, which is published in this collection of her works, I Am Your Sister. In Difference and Survival, she writes, the house of your difference is the longing for your greatest power and your deepest vulnerability. It is an indelible part of your life's arsenal. If you allow your difference, whatever it might be, to be defined for you by imposed externals, then it will be defined to your detriment, always. For that definition will be dictated by the need of your society. But as you acknowledge your difference and examine how you wish to use it and for what, the creative power of difference explored, then you can focus it towards a future we must each commit ourselves to in some particular way if it is to come to pass at all. Have you ever played that icebreaker game where you stand in a circle and toss a ball of yarn back and forth to one another? I have led it countless times, but I cannot tell you what it is called. Maybe spider web, endless thread, yarn toss. Who knows? It doesn't really matter. But how it works is that you're in a group of people, the more the merrier, and you all get into a circle. Someone in the group starts with a ball of yarn in their hand, and their job is to say their name and something about themselves. And once they do, the person then finds the end of the yarn and holds on to it while tossing the ball of yarn to someone else in the circle, such that when the next person catches the ball, there's a string of yarn that connects that person to the person who just spoke. The game goes on this way, with each person in the circle sharing and then passing the yarn ball to another person while holding on to a piece of the string. And you can keep going until everyone has spoken or until the ball of yarn has completely unspooled, at which point there should be a web of yarn crisscrossed at the center of the circle that connects everyone together. And from here, you can keep playing. You can see what happens when one person tugs on their piece of the string. Spoiler, multiple people feel the tug. You can see what happens when one person drops their piece of string. Other people pick up the slack. You can get scissors out, cut the string, and watch the whole thing fall apart. Or, my favorite, all participants can take a step back, widening the circle, you might say, and causing the center of the web to become tighter and stronger. If you've crisscrossed the yarn a couple times over, perhaps allowing for participants to each share multiple times, the center of the web can be strong enough that you can put things on top of it. And I once led this activity with a large youth group that managed to create a web so tight and complex that they decided to lift up one of the members of the group and see if she could lie comfortably on top of it. Granted, it was one of the smaller members of the group, but to everyone's great joy, it worked. The center held. There is much talk in our country today about the breaking of the center. There's the cavernous wealth gap and the resulting death of the middle class. There's the polarization of the left and the right and resulting dissolution of centrist politics. There's the generational divides between Gen Zers and Gen Xers, millennials and baby boomers, and our inability to hold shared worldviews. And there's the loss of a communal vernacular. Tell me, what is the majority's definition of truth, of democracy, of choice, of freedom these days? There seems to be no middle ground anymore. In fact, there seems to not even be a circle, a collective anymore. We're all at the opposite edges of a finite line. At least that's what the news and media seems to want us to think. It's so much easier to create a thrilling, binge-worthy narrative of good guys and bad guys that way. And honestly, I think that's what a lot of us want to think. Dualistic thinking is so much easier to wrap our tired, frustrated minds around than the idea that we all belong to a vast, interconnected web of life. Because such a web puts us into relationship with those we love and venerate, as well as those we cannot stand, those we are afraid of, those we feel ashamed around, and honestly, those we just don't really have anything to say to. And that web says, oh, see, you all are inherently and inevitably tied to one another. And thus, you need to develop a practice of reciprocal care for one another, whether you like it or not. And gosh, I love a Marvel superhero and supervillain movie as much as the next UU Buddhist minister. But my friends, I'm afraid to say this interconnected web thing is actually the truth of our existence. I think one of the most devastating aspects of society today is the fact that we seem to have deluded ourselves into believing that a center, a common ground, no longer exists. But when I pause to think about who I spend my time with, who I've worked alongside, who has helped me when I was in need, who I love, who I try to love, but who my neighbors are, who's here today in our Zoom pews, I can't think of a single person who clearly fits in one end of a spectrum or another. Everyone, as far as I can see it, is in a big tangled web of interrelationship that definitely exists within permeable bounds of a cycling circle, not at one end or the other of a finite line. Along with the various physics experiments you can try out while playing that yarn toss game, one of the things I appreciate the most about it, the reason I thought of it today, the first Sunday of our month of widening the circle, is that the web you make together is created when each person shares something about themselves. And I've seen this web created by way of two different prompts. The first is to say something about yourself and then toss the yarn ball to someone else who shares that thing in common with you. For instance, if we were playing together at First U, I might say, hi, my name is Hillary, and I like coffee. And then anyone else who liked coffee would say, I like coffee too. And then I would toss the yarn ball to one of those people, likely Marge, because I know Marge really likes coffee. And then Marge would share something about herself. Maybe that she likes visiting our partner church in Yepesh. And I'm sure quite a few folks would then share that they like visiting Yepesh too. And Marge, holding on to that string, would toss the yarn ball to one of them, perhaps Joanna, who might then share that she likes singing in the choir. at which point I'm sure all the choir members would lift their voices in harmony, and Joanna would pass the yarn, surely holding a warm tenor key as she did, to one of her fellow choir members. And the game would go on and on this way until we ran out of string and we all found ourselves attached to a web of connections comprised of our shared First U passions, our shared UU faith, and probably quite a few food-related agreements. And you know, my friends, that's a center that's gonna hold, a center that has held for a long time through a lot of change, a lot of widening, stretching, picking up slack, and buoying one another in times of need. And I imagine a few physics experiments along the way, like when you took the steeple off the church. We come together as human animals, most commonly and easily based on shared passions, beliefs, love, and of course, food. It's easy and good to build relationships this way. It's easy and good to see and feel our interconnected web in action. The second prompt, though, that I've used for that yarn toss game is to say your name and something special about yourself, something that makes you unique, that other people in the group might not share in common with you, and then pass the yarn ball at random to someone else. When taken seriously and done well, this version of the game can actually be pretty profound, not only because you learn some cool facts about folks, but also because people in your circle might say things you don't believe, things you don't understand, don't like, don't care about. But there that yarn ball goes, crisscrossing that string back and forth, strengthening a center, connecting us all together because of our differences. And my friends, that center too does hold. As we think about the work of widening our circle of concern, we must acknowledge what most hinders this expansion. Without doubt, it is fear. Fear of difference. And yes, this fear is likely formed by a pile of racist, patriarchal, heterosexist, and classist notions about who's worthy of being included in our circle and who does not belong, whose presence just will not work out here. But when it comes right down to it, all this reluctance to welcome the stranger, no matter who they are, where they're from, who they love, or what they've done, comes down to our worry that they might make us feel uncomfortable, AKA, we are afraid of them or afraid of feeling bad around them. I urge each one of us here, Audre Lorde writes, to reach down into that deep place of knowledge inside herself and touch that terror and loathing of any difference that lives there. See whose face that difference wears. Then the personal as the political can begin to illuminate our choices. Friends, as I think about it, there seems to exist two needs and one dastardly desire within all of us. The needs, first, to find common ground with others. The second, to be beloved for our differences. And that dastardly desire, well, the want for those we do not like or understand to keep out, go away. So I wonder, in this month of widening the circle, what would happen to our circle if we chipped away at that desire to exclude some or many from our circle? Might our experience of life, of belonging, of reciprocal care vastly enhance, vastly expand? This month, I encourage us here in this practice circle of our spiritual community to take on two responsibilities. The first, reach down to that deep place of knowledge inside yourself and touch the terror and loathing of difference that lives there and examine whose face it wears. And ask yourself, why? Why am I terrified? Why do I loathe that face? And then consider what your terror and loathing of that face does to the boundaries of your circle of concern. Who is excluded from your circle because of that face? And who is welcomed in based on a shared terror and loathing that further restricts your ability to grow and stretch together? Notice how your personal feelings become political and illuminate your choices. And secondly, this month, I invite you to examine all the ways you are different from other people in your circles and recognize that it's okay. We're okay. In fact, our differences strengthen us just as powerfully and wonderfully as the commonalities we share. This practice, as Audre Lorde explained, is learning the creative power of difference, exploring the creative power of difference. The house of your difference is an indelible part of your life's arsenal, Lorde wrote. As you acknowledge your difference and examine how you wish to use it and for what, the creative power of your difference explored, then you can focus it towards a future which we must each commit ourselves to in some particular way, if it is to come to pass at all. First, you here in our circle of concern, there is much shared common ground between us, and there is much difference. And this is excellent news. Why? Because we're living our living faith in action. As UUs, we don't set limits on our faith, on our paths, on our minds, on our hearts. And thus, it is a practice of our faith to widen our circle, to celebrate, learn from, and most importantly, seek out difference. As we widen our circle of concern, the center of our faith will hold, my friends, I assure you. In fact, I think it will probably only grow stronger as we stretch and expand. Please bring strange things, Ursula Le Guin urges in our opening poem this morning. Please come bringing new things. Let very old things come into your hands. Let what you do not know come into your eyes. My friends, in this month of widening the circle, in this life of widening the circle, may your soul be at home where there are no houses. May you walk carefully, walk mindfully, walk fearlessly, knowing deep down and throughout that you are well loved, knowing deep down and throughout that you can love well, and knowing deep down that you hold a piece of the string that ties all of us together. Blessed be, let it be so, and amen. Thank you for all who shared leadership with me this morning. Sarah, Sam, Gwen, and Mac. And thank you to our tech crew, Pete and Joanna. And thank you all for being here. A friendly reminder that on this beautiful February day, yes, Joanna, you are correct. February is my favorite month. Something that's different about me. It's something special about me, okay? A reminder that today we're going to have our Valentine's Day love-in at church at noon. I'm gonna skedaddle over there, so I won't be at our Zoom coffee hour this morning, but I hope to see you there for some cookies and some Valentine writing. Before then, though, I want to close with an aspirational prayer by the Reverend Dr. Sophia Betancourt. She's Dean at Star King UU Seminary, former UUA interim president, and was a consultant for the Widening the Circle of Concern report. Reverend Dr. Betancourt prays. We are on a journey toward redemption. We have lived a year filled with lamentation, with the strength of generations, the failures of the everyday, and the deep down gritty messiness that is the promise of our salvation. There is inherent goodness that exists between and among us. I want to honor the weary, ragged miracle that is our living tradition. May we honor this weary, ragged miracle too. Amen. Sarah will now lead us in the words of our unison benediction, and we will close with the hymn, Circle Round for Freedom. Thank you, Sarah.
For those who come here seeking God, may God go with you. For those who come embracing life, may life return your affection. And for those who come to seek a path, may a way be found and the courage to take it step by step.
Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned, circle for release.
Circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children. Keep the circle